If you're like me, then you're a loner and don't have any friends to play with. I mean, if you're like me, then sometimes you don't always have a squad to play with. And so you're stuck having to solo queue to get into a game and try and get the dub, right? But we all know how bad it can be. Between the quitters, the cheaters, and the smurfs, it is a shit show like half the time. But how bad are we talking about? It looks a little bit something like this. Teammate,
Help me!
if you enjoyed that clip, go ahead and smash the like button, because in this video, we're going to statistically determine how bad it is to play with a random in this game. And I promise you that even if you learn nothing, learn zero from this video, you will be entertained. So grab your Diet Coke or Coke Zero, sit back, and enjoy the video. So before I start this video, I have to disclaim that I am not a pro player, a statistician with a PhD, a doctor, or a Twitch streamer. Do not try what I have done at home. Don't do it. Find friends to play with. Don't play alone. You've been warned. Now that we've got the disclaimer out of the way, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of the video and start off by how I set up my quote-unquote study. This video is an educational tool to show how Respawn balances their random lobbying and how to establish a baseline of how you stack up compared to random averages. From the dates May 12th through May 22nd, I played a total of 53 matches, split between 26 duos games and 27 trios games, which were all in public lobbies on the Oregon 1 server. The primary variables of interest that I was looking for were the kills, damage, location we dropped, time survived, and other small variables such as whether or not the teammate left the match or not, or like their legend of choice. While these may not necessarily be the best variables for measuring skill in a battle royale, these are the variables that were most easily obtained given the limited amount of data we could obtain on players, and we can postulate that this is probably what the skill-based matchmaking system is using to calculate SBBM rank anyways. A Respawn dev back in November 2019 basically confirmed that it's based off gunplay metrics, which boils down to how much damage you're doing and what your KD is at the end of a match, because that is what reflects gunplay. So now it's finally time to spill the beans on how the teammates or the randoms did in the matches. So as you can see here, I have an extensive spreadsheet of all the information I'm going to present to you. I'm going to kick it off by creating a histogram of the 80 randoms as damage and see how they compare to me. So we're going to take a look at damage first, just because I think damage is a way better indicator of skill than kills, because you can steal people's kills, but you can't steal people's damage. So on the left side of the screen, you're going to see that a histogram of the teammates' damage is going to appear. The histogram of the randoms is showing you the frequency of players that did between X number of damage. For example, if you see the first bar, that's the bar between 0 and 500 damage, and about 60 players did that much damage. So if you look on the second column between 500 and 1000 damage, only about 12 players were able to make into that bracket, and the 1000 to 1500 was very exclusive, but only about 5 players being able to do that. And the max damage for the random was actually only 1349, which is really not that high at all. Obviously, this isn't taking into account the time of the game played, or how many kills they got or anything like that, but just expect that if you do drop into a game, that the teammate is going to do probably below 500 damage, and more often than not, it's going to be 0. Okay, so it's honestly not that bad, but what I can tell you is that the lower 50 percentile of your teammates are going to be doing between 0 and 251 damage. That's half the players you're playing with, and they're going to be doing less than the ability to get maybe 2 kills. So if you find that you're doing some pretty decent damage against squads, but you're really never able to win the gunfight, this is probably why. And this leads me to the average damage done by the teammate per match, and that's going to be about 332 damage. And keep in mind that the average playtime that I had per match was around 7.5 minutes. So in 7.5 minutes, your average teammate is really only being able to kill maybe 1 person, and not really do a lot to help you out, which can be very, very frustrating as an average player that's trying to just have fun in lobbies and win the game. So while it is very possible for teammates to do pretty good, as seen in the 50 percentile onwards, you should go into the match with expectations that you're probably going to die first drop and your teammates aren't going to do very much at all for you. And in case any of you guys are interested, this is the histogram of my damage for all the games that I played with the randoms. I believe these are numbers that are pretty reasonable to expect for an intermediate level player, and you're going to find that your averages are going to be way better than your randoms. So in case you guys didn't know, just a brief recap of SBBM or skill-based matchmaking. If you go into a trios lobby solo, they're going to try and find players that kind of average out to a certain number for the squad. Now, these quartiles, numbers, and averages are not necessarily telling you the whole picture of what's going on. You have to understand that when you play in a random squad, the chances of you dying at first drop is going to be around 50 to 75%. And so you can't really expect to do a lot of damage on the first drop, especially if you don't have a gun, which can play into the whole low damage situation you have the random. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt here. None of these damages that you've seen so far have been tied to a time value. So if you can actually tie a time value to it, we can get an accurate representation of how a teammate may perform as a match progresses. And so for your convenience, I've actually created a graph of damage inflicted by either me or a random, and correlate that to the amount of time they survive for that particular damage. So all these ranges and damages start to make a lot more sense as you plot multiple matches in a row and see the different lengths of time and how the random versus an intermediate to average level player such as yourself watching this video is going to develop during the match. As I stated before, I think damage is a very good indicator of skill. The bottom line is damage is just showing how much someone is contributing overall to fights in the game, and if you're not contributing to fights, then you're not contributing to your teammate's victory. Some may argue that you can just plink people with G7s and longbows and get 4K damage badges, but that simply isn't the case. Every single person that didn't boost the 4K damage badge is probably a very, very skilled player. So going back to the graph here, you're going to see on the right hand side there's a legend. Red is me, an above average to average player, and the blue is the randoms. And you're to see that trend line through all the dots, and that's showing you a linear representation of how much damage you can do per second while you're surviving in the game. And as you can see, if I swap over to a graph of kills versus time survived, you're going to find it's really the exact same story as damage. Even though you may be stealing your teammates' kills, more often than not, you're going to be earning your kills yourself, and your teams are simply just going to be underperforming a lot of the time. And just to put this into perspective, if you run the numbers, the teammate's average kill per game is going to be around 0.86, which means maybe about 20% of the time, the teammate's not even going to get a kill in the game. And this is contrasted with intermediate level players who can get around 3.1 kills per game. Do you know how big of a difference that is? You're just wiping a squad, and your teammates haven't really done anything. So now that we covered kills and damage, which are the main performance stats we're really looking at, let's go over to some of the smaller nuances that I looked at, starting to see a picture of what was going on. Such as whether or not the legend that a teammate picked would affect their performance, or if there were any clear trends. And to be honest with you guys, I didn't see any real trends here at all. Choice of legend doesn't really affect the teammate's performance at all, except for one thing, and that is Wraith players. I'm going to pull up a scatter plot of damage done compared to the legend of choice. And you're going to see that on the chart, it's pretty random across both me and teammates. It's kind of variable among the damage that we actually do. And so you can't really draw clear trends on that. But if you look on the very right hand side, you'll see that teammates that played Wraith, I tried to avoid playing Wraith as much as possible because Wraith is the best character in the game. I want to give randoms the best chance possible of success. But when they do pick Wraith, watch out because they're going to flop and they're going to do really, really bad. The following statement might be skewed just because I took the data at the beginning of the season. A lot of randoms wanted to try Loba, so I let them have Loba. I didn't really play her at all. I don't really find her to be particularly useful or anything like that. But as you can see, the average damage from a random that's playing Loba is 300 versus a Wraith, which is going to be 70. And so, again, that might be skewed just because of lack of sample size for Wraith players, but boy, it's really, really bad. So yeah, if you see a random that picks Wraith, just really have low expectations for the match. Okay, so moving on to win rate, this is pretty simple. Of the 53 matches I played, I won 6, and so that's a win rate of 11.3%, which is really not too bad at all. When it comes to teammates leaving the game, about 11.3% of the time, so just like the win rate, but 6 of the 53 matches I played, a teammate left the game early, which is actually kind of surprising. I was really thinking this would be a lot higher of a number. And just in case you guys are curious, the rate of a teammate leaving is not dependent on the legend. I had 6 different people leave the game and they played 6 different legends, and it wasn't just all Wraith, promise. So overall summary is that solo queuing in Apex, especially in trios, is as bad as you thought it was, if not worse. Again, this is just more evidence of how bad skill-based matchmaking stacks against solo players. The game is punishing you for being a loner. About 95% of the time in a long drawn-out match, you're going to find that randoms are always going to be consistently doing worse than you in every aspect. This really kills the solo aspect of the game and drives players away every single day to games such as Warzone. But that's not to say that playing solo in trios and duos is completely terrible, 100% avoid at all cost experience. I've had some pretty decent games sometimes, like this one. Oh, shield. 50 health, 50 HP. It's tough, dude. This is so tough. Oh, get destroyed. So while I would definitely enjoy playing in a full squad all the time and going ham, that's not to say that playing solo is always bad. And you can still definitely have a good time sometimes, but you're definitely still going to have a bad time about 90% of the time. So I still don't recommend it. So there you guys have it. That was my experience playing in 50 matches with random players and seeing what would happen. And if you guys did enjoy this video or got something useful out of it, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to the channel because we make videos like this almost every single week. If you did enjoy the video, go ahead and comment down below what your favorite part of the video was so I can do more stuff like that in my future videos. Okay, with that, that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.